Some Iraq news, posted by Clare at KTFA January 29, 2025. Listen to the full version on the official dinarreport.com website and become our supporter on Patreon. KTFA. Clare, our relationship with America will become stronger with an initiative that al-Sudani will announce soon. Expectations of his advisor. January 29, 2025. Farhad Allah al-Din, the Prime Minister's advisor for foreign affairs, confirmed in an article published in the English-language Emirati newspaper, The National, that Iraq offers great opportunities for American companies in the energy sector, confirming that there are discussions with several companies, including ExxonMobil and Chevron. He also said that the projects allocated to American companies in the coming years are estimated at tens of billions of dollars. While he expected Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani to announce a pioneering financial initiative that he said could change the business landscape in Iraq and strengthen its relationship with the United States. The advisor stated that according to Trading Economics, U.S. exports to Iraq in 2023 amounted to $2.26 billion. An increase of 230% over 2022 and 280% over 2021. While total agricultural exports alone amounted to $357 million, which is more than double the 2022 figures and 3 times the 2021 figures. Article by Farhad al-Din, in The National, translated by 964 Network. With the change of administration in Washington, many observers expected uncertainty regarding U.S. policy in the Middle East, especially towards Iraq. U.S. President Donald Trump's priorities clearly focused on domestic issues such as immigration, economic reform, and corporate repatriation. However, his appointment of strong leaders to key foreign policy positions indicated a continued focus on maintaining U.S. influence abroad in general, and in the Middle East in particular. Mr. Trump and his team have demonstrated their commitment to de-escalation, and their role in helping to broker a ceasefire in Gaza was essential even before the president took office. Mr. Trump has long been engaged in the fight against ISIS, and one of his main campaign promises was the total defeat of the terrorist group. In a March 2024 interview, he proudly noted his leadership role in the fall of ISIS, saying he got rid of it. While the group has been largely physically eliminated in Iraq, where it once held vast territory, it remains a threat in remote areas and now poses a risk of resurgence in Syria, particularly after the collapse of the Assad regime. Clearly, a complete and lasting defeat of ISIS, beyond any chance of recovery, will require, and indeed will be essential, strong cooperation between Iraq and the United States. Iraq and the United States can share many security, political, and economic issues for mutual benefit. Regionally, Iraq stands out as an anchor of stability and an important player in diplomacy. Under Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani's Iraq First policy, the country has adopted a moderate and inclusive approach that prioritizes shared interests. This position enhances the country's influence in the region and underscores its importance as a partner for the United States in maintaining stability. The strong and thriving U.S.-Iraq relationship promotes stability and prosperity in the region, but the U.S.-Iraq relationship extends beyond military and security cooperation, encompassing sectors as diverse as energy, agriculture, education, and economic development. Al-Sudani is currently leading Iraq through an ambitious reconstruction effort, with funding exceeding any allocation in the past 2 decades. Iraq offers significant opportunities for U.S. companies in the energy sector, with discussions underway with major companies such as ExxonMobil and Chevron, along with initiatives involving General Electric, Baker Hughes, KBR, and Halliburton. Overall, projects for U.S. companies could be worth tens of billions of dollars over the next few years. Financial institutions, including the Export-Import Bank and the International Monetary Fund, have expressed interest in supporting these efforts. Notably, the Prime Minister is expected to announce a major financial initiative that could change the business landscape in Iraq and further strengthen its relationship with the United States. American companies are increasingly drawn to Iraq, as evidenced by the growing activities of the U.S.-Iraq Business Council. While the events of the American Chamber of Commerce in Iraq now attract more American companies than ever before. According to Trading Economics, a data and forecasting firm, U.S. exports to Iraq reached $2.26 billion in 2023. a significant 230% increase from 2022 and 280% higher than 2021. Agricultural exports alone totaled $357 million, more than double the 2022 figures and 3 times the 2021 figures. These figures are expected to rise significantly in 2024 and 2025, and U.S. farmers, in particular, will benefit from this burgeoning trade relationship. In addition, the Iraqi government has approved a program to send 5,000 students abroad for master's and doctoral studies, with approximately 3,000 students to study in the United States. American universities will benefit greatly from this initiative, along with collaboration with institutions such as the American universities in Baghdad, Dahok, and Sulaymaniyah. Al-Sudani described relations with the United States as strategic and institutional, emphasizing the depth of this partnership in his recent media appearances, and in particular, in an interview with Elif in London, hours before Mr. Trump's inauguration on January 20, the Prime Minister said that Iraq is ready to cooperate with the new administration. He stressed that this relationship is based on the Joint Strategic Framework Agreement between the two countries, as well as our partnership in the international coalition to fight ISIS. A strong and prosperous relationship between the United States and Iraq promotes stability and prosperity in the region, benefiting the interests of both countries and their people. Through strategic cooperation in security, economics, and diplomacy, this partnership has the potential to shape a more stable and prosperous Middle East. Clare, in the presence of the Kurdistan Interior Ministry, Baghdad hosts a meeting to implement the security agreement with Iran. January 29, 2025, the Iraqi National Security Advisory hosted, on Wednesday, a meeting of the Supreme Committee for implementing the security agreement between the Republic of Iraq and the Islamic Republic of Iran. An official Iraqi statement received by Shafaq news agency stated that the National Security Advisor, Qasim al-Araji, headed the Iraqi delegation. In the presence of the Minister of Interior of the Kurdistan region, Reber Ahmed, and representatives of the region, while the Iranian delegation was headed by Abdul Reza Maskarian. The meeting witnessed a review of the measures taken by the two countries to implement the terms of the agreement. In addition to discussing the current obstacles and challenges, and the necessary measures to expedite the implementation of the agreement. During the meeting, al-Araji stressed the Iraqi government's keenness not to use Iraqi territory as a launching pad for attacks on neighboring countries. While it was agreed to hold a subsequent meeting in the Kurdistan region to complete the discussions. Clare, chairman of the Finance Committee, charting a new path to manage the financial situation in Iraq. January 29, 2025, Baghdad, the head of the Finance Committee in the House of Representatives, Atwan al-Atwani, confirmed today, Wednesday, that the committee has placed at the top of its priorities charting a new path for managing the financial situation in the country, by enhancing non-oil revenues. A statement by the Finance Committee, received by Mawazin News, stated that al-Atwani, accompanied by the delegation currently visiting the United Kingdom, met separately with Baroness de Souza and Director of the Oversight Unit in the British House of Commons Alex Knight, in the presence of specialists from the International Partners Foundation. The statement indicated that the meetings addressed the prospects for cooperation between the Finance Committee and the Iraqi Council of Representatives, and the relevant committees in the British House of Commons, with the aim of exchanging experiences in legislative and oversight work in a way that serves common interests. Al-Atwani explained, after reviewing the structure of the British House of Commons and the House of Lords, that the Iraqi Council of Representatives needs to create permanent specialized formations of experts to chart the path of legislative work, and complete the requirements for enacting laws in a way that achieves the country's supreme interests and is consistent with development plans. He stressed that strengthening the legislative authority with specialized formations will contribute to maturing laws and determining the actual need for legislation, away from personal interpretations. Al-Atwani also stressed the need to reduce dependence on oil as a primary source of revenue, noting that Iraq has other financial resources that can form basic pillars of the budget, such as customs, taxes, investment of state assets, the communications sector, and other government services. Clare, the Council of Ministers issues a series of decisions to develop airports and support parliamentary elections with about 400 billion dinars. January 28, 2025. Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani chaired the fourth regular cabinet session of the current year today, Tuesday, during which the general conditions in the country were discussed. Important files and priorities of the government program were discussed, in addition to discussing the topics on the agenda and taking the necessary decisions regarding them. The Council of Ministers followed up on the energy file, as it approved the inclusion of the Majnoon oil field in social benefit projects, equal to what is in effect in other licensing contracts, and enabling the Ministry of Oil, Basra Oil Company to implement service projects in accordance with the mechanism set out in Cabinet Resolution 24318 of 2024. Regarding the implementation of social benefit projects for licensing round contracts, as well as the Ministry of Finance allocating an amount of $10 million annually from the Majnoon oilfield account to implement the projects under discussion within the planning budget of the company operating the field, Basra Oil Company. In order to develop and organize the work of airports, the following was approved. 1. The Ministry of Transport shall contract with the specialized international consultant, International Finance Corporation (IFC), to prepare the investment booklet for the management, operation and development of airports, Basra, Mosul, Dhikar and Najaf, in partnership with the private sector, PPP, according to a specific timetable in cooperation and coordination with the Civil Aviation Authority. And the cost of the consulting study shall be borne by the winning bidder and apportioned by the relevant governorate. 2. The Ministry of Transport or the governorate, in which the airport is established, shall be responsible for contracting with the party with which the partnership is required, the winning bidder, in coordination between the aforementioned ministry and the governorate in which the airport is established. 3. The Ministry of Transport shall supervise and monitor the airports, including the revenues generated from the airport and employment in it, in coordination with the governorate in which the airport is established, which shall be the liaison with the federal government in facilitating all relevant government procedures. 4. The management of passports, customs, health, security, airport security, air traffic control, standardization and quality control at airports shall be the exclusive responsibility of the federal government. 5. Baghdad International Airport is excluded from the aforementioned paragraph. 2. And the Ministry of Transport remains the contracting party with the investor. In the same context, the Council of Ministers approved the following. 1. The Ministry of Transport, Iraqi Airways shall pay the fees due after signing the investment or partnership contract in accordance with the Civil Airports Wage System, No. 6 of 2018. 2. The Ministry of Transport shall negotiate with investors or participants in airport management to determine the minimum amount of airport revenues that must be guaranteed by the Iraqi side. And the negotiation minutes shall be submitted to the Council of Ministers to enable the Ministry of Finance to provide the required guarantees. 3. The Ministry of Transport shall agree with the investor or participant in airport management to include a clause in the contract that includes determining the amount of compensation to be paid. In the event that the airport management or any government agency with jurisdiction terminates the investment or partnership contract by its sole will before the end of the contract term. 4. The Ministry of Transport, the Civil Aviation Authority and the Advisory Board shall prepare a draft amendment to the airport's wage system No. 6 of 2018. Ensuring that the issue of fees collected is addressed in accordance with the aforementioned system, in a manner consistent with the nature of contracts and the economics of the air transport market. As part of the financial reform measures, the Council approved the preparation of a draft law stipulating that the work of the Insurance Bureau be linked to the Central Bank of Iraq. As the Bureau is one of the non-banking financial institutions that works to regulate and supervise the insurance sector, in a way that ensures its development and secures an open, transparent and financially secure market. In the field of tax cooperation, it was agreed to authorize the Director General of the General Tax Authority at the Ministry of Finance to negotiate and initial the draft agreement to avoid double taxation and prevent evasion of taxes imposed on income and capital between the government of the Republic of Iraq and the government of the Sultanate of Oman. Based on the provisions of the Constitution, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs shall prepare the necessary authorization document in the name of the government of the Republic of Iraq for the Director General of the Authority. and submit it to the General Secretariat of the Council of Ministers in order to obtain the signature of the Prime Minister. With the aim of developing trade and simplifying procedures, the Council of Ministers approved the draft e-commerce regulation system in Iraq. The Council also approved the draft law amending the first law of the Sunni Endowment Diwan, 56 of 2012, which was reviewed by the State Council and referred to the House of Representatives, based on the provisions of the Constitution. Taking into account the observations of the Legal Department in the General Secretariat of the Council of Ministers. As part of the government's efforts to develop Baghdad's heritage areas, the Council of Ministers approved the exemption of the rehabilitation project of the heritage Kisla building, Al-Aqsa Post Office, from the instructions for implementing government contracts, 2 of 2014, and the controls attached thereto, and contracting with the company nominated by the Ministry of Culture, Tourism and Antiquities. As part of the government's efforts to resume work on stalled and suspended projects, the Council of Ministers approved the following. 1. Establishing a component, equipping medical devices, medical and office furniture with medical supplies, within the components of the Mosul Hospital Rehabilitation project included in the Ministry of Health's investment budget tables for the year 2023, with a new contract according to the controls, and increasing the total cost of the project. 2. Increasing the reserve amount and the total cost of the residential complex in Diyala Governorate, Al-Ghalibia project, and increasing the amount of supervision and monitoring. 3. Increasing the reserve amount and the total cost of the residential complex in Wasit Governorate, Zerbatia project. 4. Increasing the reserve amount for the construction of classrooms component included within the components of the design and implementation of engineering complex buildings project at the University of Babylon, and increasing the amount of supervision and monitoring. And establishing a component called the amount of increase in unpaid dues for the classroom construction component, and increasing the total cost of the main project. As part of the government's efforts to provide support for the parliamentary elections, the Council of Ministers approved the inclusion of the difference amounting to 294.370 billion dinars within the tables of estimates of the Federal General Budget for the year 2025, based on the provisions of the Federal General Budget Law, 13 of 2023, so that the amount becomes 398.600 billion dinars. For the purpose of covering the costs of implementing the 2025 House of Representatives elections, as an exception to the instructions for implementing government contracts, 2 of 2014, and the instructions for facilitating the implementation of the Budget Law, 1 of 2023, and amending the text of the budget law for the years 2023, 2024, and 2025, sovereign expenditures, including the House of Representatives elections. Listen to the full version on the official dinarreport.com website and become our supporter on Patreon. Source: Dinar Recaps.